Good evening, buenas noches, and thank you for tuning in. On behalf of all of us at Books and Books in Miami, Florida, it's my pleasure to welcome you to a virtual evening with Yasmin Angoe to discuss her new thriller, They Come at Night, the heart-pounding second installment in the Nena Knight series about an intrepid female assassin who will stop at nothing to protect her family. Yasmin Angoe is the author of Her Name is Knight and a first-generation Ghanaian American currently residing in South Carolina with her family. She served in education for nearly 20 years and works as a developmental editor. Yasmin received the 2020 Eleanor Taylor Bland Crime Fiction Writers of Color Award from Sisters in Crime, of which she is a member. She is also a proud member of numerous crime, mystery, and thriller organizations like Crime Writers of Color and International Thriller Writers. To moderate tonight's conversation, we're joined by Oline H. Cogdill, who reviews mystery fiction for the Sun Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale, Publishers Weekly, and Shelf Awareness. She's been honored with the Raven Award from the Mystery Writers of America, the Ellen Neer Award by the American Crime Writers League, and the Sun Sentinel's Pettyjohn Award. Oline is in her sixth year as a judge for the Los Angeles Times Books Prize in the Mystery Thriller category. She also has an essay on reviewing in the Anthony and Agatha award-winning book, How to Write a Mystery. Throughout this evening's broadcast, you're invited to ask questions by clicking the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen. So pop those in there and we'll get to those right after the conversation. And please order your copy of the book from Books and Books. And thank you for supporting independent bookstores. And now, without further ado, I'd like to welcome our guests to the virtual stage. Welcome. Welcome.
There we go. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. And I can't see who's out there, but I know you're there. And I think we're going to have a great conversation tonight. I am so excited to interview Yasmin Angoe. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. Her latest book is They Come at Night. And I reviewed that in the Sun Sentinel this past Sunday, if any of you happen to see that. And we're going to just chat for a little while. Yasmin, your series, I think, is probably the most unusual in the mystery thriller genre. Your novels revolve around Nena Knight. Mm-hmm. She's an assassin for the African Tribal Council, which is also just known as the Tribe. Mm-hmm. And this is a coalition that keeps its power very much under the radar. And they work to provide aid and help to support African villages. And the tribe wants to unite the various African countries into a strong economic force. Mm-hmm. And along the way, well, there's a lot of ruthless businessmen and politicians that don't agree with them. And, well, they just kind of need to be eliminated. What was your inspiration for this series? It is so unusual.
What was my inspiration? I wanted to write a really fierce, female character that just kind of was an amalgamation of everything that people don't expect, her to be. And I love those kind of, action thrillers anyway. And I wasn't seeing, people like me in them in the main roles, and definitely not someone who, was from a country that wasn't, America or, England or something like that. So definitely not from one of the smaller, countries and things like that. So I just really wanted to write, a woman who could do everything that the guys can do, but better. And, just someone who was really fierce and just, I could just go balls to the wall with her.
Well, I certainly think you do. Now, you write so vividly about the tribe. And I wonder, you make them so believable. Are they based on a real coalition?
No, it's really something that I thought, hey, it would be cool. Well, it wouldn't be cool to have a coalition that, takes people out, things like that. But I thought that it would be cool if there was, and I'm pretty sure, there's something like that where, and I think there are, but like just, a group of people who, know the history of the African continent and the things that it's so rich and has all of these resources that have not been something that the people of that continent have been able to get any kind of money or anything. They're not able to really enjoy the resources that they have, or even determine how they're going, who they're going to give it to, or how they're going to set prices or anything like that. So I just really wanted something where people would come together and they would say, we're just going to make Africa great again, and we are going to give her power back, because the book is very much about regaining your power. It happens with Nena, and it happens with the tribe and in what they're trying to do, and they're just tired of always being overlooked. And so they're like, well, we are going to compile our resources, our wealth, and do this thing where we're going to lift up, our African people and people of the diaspora.
You just write about it so vividly. I really thought it was based on a real group. So that's good. Let's talk about Nena. She has, I think, a lot of layers. Yes, she is an assassin, but she's not always comfortable with that role.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of steels herself up for the missions by going into an alter ego that she calls Echo.
Mm-hmm.
You've given her a very compelling backstory. She survived a childhood of abuse. She was rescued when she was a teenager and had been sold into captivity. Let's talk about her, how you created her, and who she is to you.
Okay, yeah. Who she is to me is, an idol in the sense of her tenacity and in the sense of, her survivorship. She is absolutely a survivor with all the things that she had been through. And you read, she's been through a lot. And so, the things that we go through are what shapes and molds us. And, there's trauma from that. And so she creates this alter ego because that's the way that she can deal with the things that have happened in her past, and she doesn't want to be vulnerable like that again, and she doesn't want to be taken advantage of and traumatized like that again. So she kind of puts herself in this shell, and she is just very good at compartmentalizing. I can't say the word right, which is something I'm not good at, right? And so she's able to just put these things in a box. When she's going to work, she's going to work. And you're right, she's she doesn't find enjoyment in when she goes on a mission and has to take someone out. But again, she's putting away all of her personal feelings about whether this person really deserves it or not. She's very loyal to the tribe. So if the tribe says this person has to go because they did this thing to hurt others, then she's like, okay, I'm going to go do that. So she's very much she's good at her job. So that's what she's proud at, is that she's good at the job, not necessarily what the job does in terms of taking lives.
And she's very attuned, I think, to the vulnerable,
Mm-hmm.
and how her actions or others' actions can save or harm the vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. She absolutely is, and that speaks from her experience and in being in that place where she was vulnerable and she didn't have someone to rescue her from
Right.
those traumas that she experienced. And then she has someone step into her life and gives her a chance after all of that, and gives her a second life. So she sees that in other people, and she appreciates that. And so what she wants very much in regaining her power is to ensure that other people have their power as well, but by any means necessary. She wants you to have your power and be able to do with your power whatever it is that's going to make you happy and make you feel like you've accomplished something.
Well, and the backstory you gave her, unfortunately, mirrors real life.
Mm-hmm.
She had a very lovely childhood as a little girl. Her father was a tribal chief leader,
Mm-hmm.
and terrorists came into her village wiped out pretty much everyone there, killed her family, and kidnapped all the young women and girls. And she was sold into captivity until she was rescued. That is such a compelling backstory for a character.
Yes, yes. And she was rescued from after the fact, but because that's one thing she always, what she does is, she saves herself when she was sold, and they sent her, to a whole nother country, and put her in in an even worse situation. She knew it was either her or her captor, and he had really messed with her mind, and that's where she realized, I have to have this deal resolved. If I'm going to live, I'm going to have to do some things that I never thought I would have to do. And so she, saves herself and she gets out of there. And then when she's at her lowest is when, like you said, she's rescued, and she meets, the Knight family, or Delphine, who becomes her mother, and she sees that kindness in this person, something that she hasn't seen in so long, and she probably thought, it doesn't exist anymore, at least not for me. So she gets that second chance, and that resonates with her, because she is so hurt from everything that's happened, and to have that little bit of kindness, offered to her, and for someone who doesn't even know her to see this person is so vulnerable and they need my help, that just really speaks to her, and that's what I was feeling too. I definitely wanted her to go through that journey, because I wanted, definitely needed, for her to have a reason as to why she takes this, this kind of position, because she doesn't have to be an assassin, but she chooses it because, that is the thing that lets her get her anger out. She still has to do that, and she can focus and funnel herself on getting this mission done, and doing the mission well. And so, she's laser focused, but she also, like you said, has a lot of layers. And she still feels, even though she's been trying to kind of hold it in. And so we see with these two books, and even in the third when it comes out, how she's been gradually kind of opening up to having these other found families.
Exactly. And I think the themes that, as we've just talked about, that run through your books are survivorship,
Mhm.
and also family. And
Yep.
family has become very important. I mean, she believes that she considers the Knight family, they are her family, her parents, her sister who's expecting. And I
Mhm.
think that bond that you have created for her is so important to your plots, and really kind of helps move those along.
Mhm. Yes, well, I mean, definitely, because I wanted to, in creating a character who has a job that, would make people be like, how do I root for someone who willingly goes and kills, right? I wanted her to, she's got to be three-dimensional. She's got to have something that means something to her. And after losing her family, in the manner that she lost them, and right in front of her eyes, it makes her appreciate family even more. And that those themes that you mentioned are definitely themes that even I was dealing with as I was, writing the book. Found family when, moving to South Carolina, and not knowing anyone here, my kids and I, we had to find a new family of people who were going to be supportive to us, and welcome us in. And we found that slowly and gradually. So that was definitely a journey. And so I wanted to kind of, delve into that in this story, finding family and the importance of family, and the family you're born with is important. And sometimes they work out and sometimes they don't. But the family that you surround yourself with, your tribe of people, is even sometimes it's even more important, because you are choosing those people as opposed to just being born into, so it was very, the themes that you're mentioning: survivor, found, or family, parental relationships, of father-daughter relationships. Those are all things that I definitely was really interested in, and wanted to talk about, and really delve into with Nena.
Oh, yeah, and thank you. And I also love the fact that you give her a personal life. I mean, she has getting over the end of a recent relationship, romantic relationship. She's mentoring a teenage girl, and she's very excited about becoming an aunt to her sister's son, who's about to be born in the novel. And I found that, just very refreshing because she's definitely a full person.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, your latest novel, I hold that up and I see it in the background. They Come at Night.
Yes.
This is, I think that, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the novel has a theme too of betrayal. Nena and her dispatch team, they are targeting a heartless general, but they are trapped when they get to his Kenyan compound. They barely escape, and they know that somebody has betrayed them. And there's also the theft of money and supplies that have been earmarked for some poor African villages. Now, traders are very rare in the tribe. And I think in many ways, the theft of money, because they're taking it from the most vulnerable people, is even more of a crime for her. Can we talk about your inspiration for this novel?
Yeah. So for this one, I really wanted to go into the more of the inner workings of the tribe and in the work that they do. I introduced it in the first one, but the first one was more of an origin story for her. So it was really her journey. And so in the second one, I wanted to expand on her journey, but I wanted to include the tribe and what the tribe believes and what they do. And so it's like you said, it's super important that, if they're going to uplift, all of these African countries and things, that they are doing these things, sending supplies and building medical facilities and things like that. And so when they find that someone has been, embezzling money and rerouting supplies and things like that, like that's a real affront to them. And they know that, it's got to be something internal. So what is going on? Because everybody who comes aboard and is on the tribal council and things like that are people who have vowed to put the people first, right? To put the African people first. So now they've got to root that out. And you're right, when she goes to the outpost or the military outpost for the general, and they're on this mission and it gets sabotaged, they're waiting for them. There's only a few people who might be able to do that. And so that means that someone has either broke into their system, or there's someone from inside she doesn't know. And so she's got to figure that out, because now who can they trust? That the place, the entity that they put so much faith in is kind of failing them, if that makes any sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And so now she has to figure out, and she and her family, because they're coming after not only her, they're coming after her family. And if she's thinking about, the Baxters, her romantic relationship, and her nephew who's coming, she's got to ensure that they're going to be safe. And who are these people that are coming after her?
Right. Oh, yeah. It's an interesting plot, and I hope that people who are in the chat here will take a look at this book, because it's really good. Also, please, anyone who wants to ask a question, there's a button down at the bottom, ask a question, and we will try to get to you. I think setting is very important to your novels, and They Come at Night moves from Miami to Ghana to London to many places in Africa. How important is setting to your novels?
It's very important. I think that you had said, I write very visually. And so I really try to write whatever picture is in my head. And I want to root the reader in the whole environment. I want them to have a totally immersive experience. And so that means making sure that the physical environment is something that they can imagine as they're reading, and they can they can almost taste the food that Nena is eating, and feel the heat of Miami versus Ghana, and all those places and things like that. So I do a lot of imagining, and I really try to incorporate all of that into the book. So yeah, just creating that environment and that visual for the reader is super important to me.
Oh, now you live in South Carolina. Why are your novels set partly in Miami?
Because I love Miami too. Because when I went to Miami once with my husband, and I'm like, oh, this, it was really hot, and it was just like beautiful people. And I was like, I just really love Miami, and I would love to live here and things like that. So that's just where I felt like this would be somewhere where, like Nena would live here because it's something that would remind her of home. Miami is very different than Ghana, but just the weather and being close to the water and just stuff, the communities and things like that. And so that's why I put it in there. But it was really because I just really love Miami, and I just was like, I gotta put this place in Miami.
And it's a good excuse to come back down, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
In Miami, it's a diverse, South Florida in general. I live in Broward County. It's a diverse area, and it's also kind of an international area because we have a lot of people from different backgrounds. And I thought it was that would definitely be where Nena would reside. Do you ever come back down here very often?
Well, so my mom lives in Orlando, so I go there mostly to visit her down there. But I mean, every time I'm in Florida, I just love it. And one day maybe I will make my way down there and stay like my mom did. I think what it is about Florida is my mom has always talked about Florida, and I was raised in Virginia, so like the Washington, D.C. area. So my mother would always say that she's going to retire in Florida. And she slowly but surely made her way down to Florida. And so I'm like, it must be really good. I think I want to go to Florida too, because she really made that trek, and so it's special to me as well.
Of all your characters, aside from Nena, do you have a favorite?
Yeah, her best friend Cogdill, he's my favorite too. I love all of them for the differences that they are and their personality. All of them really complement Nena in the ways that she's lost those kind of personality quirks and things because of her experience. But Cogdill is the one who like keeps it real, and he doesn't care if he is inappropriate, and he just likes to shock her, and she just finds so much joy in him because he's so like carefree in how he talks, and then he talks to her not irreverently, if you know what I mean. Like he talks to her just like she's just his sister next to him, and he won't BS her or anything, and she appreciates that because she knows, because of her name or because of what she does, or even because she's so reserved, he refuses to let her reserve or reservations keep him from just being him, and from him like just loving on her when he wants to.
Yeah, because a lot of the other characters, the people who are in the tribe and everything, they're kind of afraid of her.
I would be too. So
right? She is an assassin, but also because, as you said, her position, her family. There's some. It's hard to get close to people like that. And I like that character too, because he, like you said, he doesn't care about that. He just relates to her as a person. And I would be afraid of Nena too. They should be.
Yes.
Let's talk about you a little bit. Now, you are a first generation Ghanaian American. And so you grew up in kind of straddling two cultural worlds. And I've heard you say that your novels are very much a tribute to your heritage. Yeah. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yes. So growing up, definitely, one foot in two worlds. In the day when I'm at school, I'm total American. And then when I come home, I'm Ghanaian again. And I don't get, and I would get in arguments with my mom because, I want to have pizza and spaghetti and stuff like that. And we don't eat that. I'm going to eat fufu and peanut butter soup and things like that. And so I definitely didn't appreciate my culture growing up as I would have liked to. And so when I got older, and especially when my father passed, I was just thinking about all the time that had passed, and all these years that I didn't appreciate my culture as I should have, and really welcomed it, and even taught it like to my kids seriously. And so I said, I'm in this story that I'm going to write about this assassin. She has to be so culturally like ingrained, like everything to her is Ghanaian, and that is first and foremost, because I want to highlight my culture and the country that my parents are from, and that they came here to go to school, and things like that. And I wanted to just really show my love of that country and my family, most of my family who was still there, and communicate with us and stuff like that. So it's important to me, now that I am using the time to really talk about my culture, and to really show how much I love and appreciate my culture after all these years of trying to hide and be more American, because I wanted to be like everyone else.
Has your family and your mom, have they read your books?
No, I don't know. Yeah, well, my brother and sisters, they've read it. My mother, no, I told her she can't read it because she's a very particular, she's very religious and very, and so just the thought of Nena being assassin, she was not happy with that. And she was like, why does she have to be an assassin? And what is wrong with you? Why are you writing about, like, what are all these things? I think she asked me, where did you get all of these things? And I'm like, from my imagination. And so she thinks something is wrong with me, because where did I come up with this? And why am I talking about all these things? And I mean, she prays for me. She asked the Lord to forgive me. So, but she's happy, and she's, proud of what I've accomplished, but the books just aren't her thing. And that's okay. And so she has them. And I've given them to her, and I just tell her, and she tried, she was like, I'm going to read one. And I said, no, don't, because I don't want to get the texts and the phone calls when she reads it or tries to. And I know I would. So I'm just like, let's not even have that discussion. If you could put it in, on your shelf or whatever, and say, that's my daughter, but don't read it.
Oh, how funny. And she does know that you are not Nena, right?
I mean, I don't know if I'm trying to tell her, and she's just like, where did you get this assassin thing? And how are you talking about these things? So I don't know what she thinks.
We have some questions have come in, and the first one, I believe, is from Wanda Morris, who I think is a terrific author.
Yes,
I love her books, and she wants to know, what are you working on now, and what is next for Nena?
Oh, thank you. So I am working through the revisions for the third book in the trilogy. So the final book, it's called It Ends with Night. And it comes out September of this year. So I'm excited for that, and nervous and a little sad, because, that's her journey, and so we'll see how she ends. And she's had this kind of curve, and so that's pretty much like what I'm working on. And then I'm trying to think of the next book that I'm going to write, which is going to be a standalone, and so kind of working through what the idea is for that. It's going to be different. It's not going to be, an action thriller like this. So I've got to really bring it so that you all will still like me.
Thank you, Wanda, for coming. And, again, Wanda Morris is a terrific writer.
She is.
We have another.
Everywhere you run, so get that.
That's right. It was one of my favorite books of last year. I have another question from Lee Raymond, who happens to be my sister-in-law. Thank you, Lee, for coming. And she says, the physical fights and conflicts are so detailed and vivid. Have you studied self-defense and hand-to-hand combat? Or do you have someone who advises you on it? The training scenes are really gripping.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Wow, that's a great sister right there. No, I'm too lazy to do any of that stuff. I'm allergic to exercise in any way. So I have a friend who, she's like a black belt in martial arts. And so I'll ask her about, that kind of physical hand-to-hand combat, and then or fighting, and then I just look up. I've researched Krav Maga, which is what Nena is expert at, and then I have a law enforcement friend who helps me with the weaponry and things like that. And then I also still have my imagination, because once they tell me all these things, I literally sit here and I try to do all of those moves. So maybe I'm not that lazy, but I do reenact the moves to make sure it makes sense, and it's doable. And so sometimes you'll see me like karate chopping, or I'll even bring a family member and have them point a gun to my head and see how I can like disarm them. And so that's the extent of my Nina-isms. So
That's great. We have another question. It looks like it's from Natalie. I can't see too well on that one. How much research goes into the scenes and background stories of the characters that you write about? They all seem so real, and they are each layered. They certainly are. Also, the conflict feels so real. Are there any particular real life events that inspired these?
Right. No, I don't think that there's one specific real life events. It's just very much a story that we all know, like when it comes to human trafficking, when it comes to the proliferation, sorry, of African resources and things by colonizers throughout the centuries and stuff like that. And then also, we all have internal conflict and, family conflict and love conflict, and also, revenge, if we're talking about like the revenge book and things like that, and betrayal. So I try to hit on the general themes that everybody can recognize. Of course, I just kind of ramp it up, a lot for this book. And as far as research, like I research a lot towards the beginning and really try to get a grasp of what it is that I'm going to write. And who it is that I'm going to write, like what kind of person is this particular character going to be. And then even as I'm writing, it becomes a little bit more fluid. And so maybe that character will change a little bit. Like Kegel wasn't initially going to be such, a major character within the books, but he became that way because, he just was speaking to me. And so they'll change as I'm writing. And then I just kind of like will kind of fix it up to fit the change that's happening. So research is always, it's a continuous thing, but the heavy part of it, I'll probably spend several weeks to like a month trying to get things done. I could be researching forever, and so I have to like stop myself so that I can actually start writing, because I'll have any excuse not to write, actually sit down and write the things.
I hear that from every writer too. It looks like, okay, this is from Grinnell. What can we expect in book 3, and when is it coming out?
So book 3 comes out in September, and what we can expect is, Nena is going to come into a new position or role, and so she, it's something that she's kind of been fighting against, because she really likes to be in her position and in her lane, and not really venture out. And so she's going to be made to kind of venture out. And how does she deal with that, as well as some external conflicts that's messing with her. Everybody's always messing with her, and they just won't let her be. So she's got to, she's got to fix that issue too.
And when is the book coming out?
September 5th, I believe.
Of this year.
Of this year, yes.
Okay. I love this because we have some authors who are also here. Tori Edridge.
Yay! Hey, Tori.
Yeah, I know. Oh. What did you learn? Tori wants to know, what did you learn about your heritage through your book research that felt particularly enriching for you?
What I learned, honestly, is the background of like my dad, the town that he came from, my mom as well. So I merged a lot of, where the town that Nena is from is not it's a fictional town, but it's very much like, the town that my father grew up in, and my father and his family were pretty prominent in their village that is no longer. And so that's where like the whole chieftain, thing with the family and everything like that comes from there. And so in speaking to my mom, because my mom is, my resident Ghanaian that I have, she really has all these, stories that of my dad and how things were back home, and then, how they are in their village and things like that. And so she was just it was just wonderful to like listen to her. And I'm just like, why did I waste all this time not here listening to these things? But That's cool. Yeah. So it really gave me a deep appreciation, and it just makes me excited for like when I go back and I get to, I'm gonna see it in a new light. And Ghana, I hear so much of it now. They got Afrochella in December. I want to go to that. I want to go to all the things. So so I'm just like, hey, I'm here for all the Ghanaian and African love that's happening.
We have Ed Amer, who writes as E.A. Amer and has a great novels. One is coming out in February.
Yep.
He wants to know, are you planning for the characters to appear in any future works now that the trilogy is over?
Ooh, I would love for that. I've thought about that and thought of who can branch out. The Nena world is definitely not over for me because I'm always thinking about it, even when I'm not writing it. And so I always hate to say that, oh, it's the third and the last of the trilogy, but it is. But definitely, she may pop up somewhere, and y'all will be like, wait a minute, I know her, or anybody in her group. So yeah,
a lot of people do that. Miss Judy wants to just thank you for the third installment. She's excited about that.
Thank you, Miss Judy.
I don't know who Miss Judy is, but thank you for coming. And I wanted to Tracy Clark, who is also an author, her new book Hide is out, and she's again a terrific writer. We have a terrific writer here as our guest, and also asking questions. Tracy wants to know, how much of you as the writer is in Nena?
Oh my gosh. The only thing that's in me, that's in Nena, is probably her love of food and her love of lemon pepper wings, and bacon cheeseburgers and chocolate milkshakes. That's the me. And everything that I'm not like, athletic and able to like just focus on the job and just being just a badass, excuse my language for that. That's what Nena is. So Nena is just someone I would love to emulate, minus the killing. But I would like to know those skills, because I think it's good to have skills and know that you can take somebody down if they mess with you. So yeah.
I'm coming to you. We were able to. I was able to mention the other authors who are asked questions, their book, and I wanted to mention E.A. Amar's book is coming out in February, and it's called No Home for Killers. I actually did a thing last night about my picks for January, February, and March coming out. So, and Tracy Clark was also part of that last night. We don't have much more time, about 5 more minutes maybe. In your research, what is the funniest, oddest, or just strangest tidbit you've come across, and maybe even something you could not use?
That's a good question. Was there something that I couldn't use? No, I can't really think of in my research if there was anything. And the funniest thing, that probably would have to be like, there's a scene in the in They Come at Night where they are at a kitchen, they're at breakfast, right? And they start talking about IHOP. I don't know if you remember that. Yeah, they're talking about IHOP and everything, and Nena is like, oh yeah, you mean International House of Pancakes. And she says it like so seriously, and they need a minute because nobody calls it that anymore. No. But Nena does. And so what's funny about that is that happened in true life. That was my mother. And we had that exact conversation. My kids and I were at IHOP, and we were like, yeah, IHOP. And she was like, yeah, this is International House of Pancakes. And we're looking like, what is that? And it was just the funniest thing, because she literally goes around, and that's how she refers. She doesn't call it IHOP. She calls it the whole thing. And when that happened, I was like, I have to put that in the story, and it just stuck with me because it's just the funniest thing. So whenever you talk to her, like, she won't give you like acronyms; she'll tell you the whole entire word, and you have to figure out what that shortened word was that everybody except for her.
Oh yeah, and it's those little tidbits like that add the humanity because that make it, seem even more real. As a writer, what are you most proud of?
As a writer, I am most proud of the feedback that I've been getting from everyone and like even in our conversation that we've had, when you talk about the themes and when you talk about, how she's such a layered character, those are the things that I was trying to get through in the story. And those were the things that I was worried when I was writing the first one was, will they be able to see beyond the fact that she is a hired assassin? Will they see her humanity? Will they see her journey, from what she's been through to what she's become, and the things that make her human and make her want to be loved again and want to love again. And so getting all of that in, feedback and people saying, how much they liked it and talking about the themes and really connecting with those messages that I was trying to put out there. And also when people say, oh my gosh, I can imagine Ghana and it sounds so beautiful and I want to go to Aburi Mountains and, I want to, all this other stuff. I'm like, yes, they appreciate, what I'm saying about Ghana and talking about, the Elmina Castle and all of those things. So it's those things that make me so super proud that, people get it.
Yes.
And enjoy it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're almost out of time. I'm going to turn it back over to Christina. Yes, but this has been such a fun time. I really appreciate the conversation we've had. I appreciate everyone who's come and asked questions. It's lovely to see all the authors who also showed up for this.
Thank y'all for that. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Buy the books from Books and Books. They are a great bookstore, independent bookstore, and we need to support that. So thank you. Christina, I turn it back to you.
Thank you both. What a wonderful conversation. Are there any plans to option, like have the books been optioned for film or TV?
Yes, they were optioned. And so all they'll tell me, because I guess they know that I'm a motor mouth, is, that the script is, they're still working on the script. And any day now it will be finished and I get to read it. And so I'm interested to see where they take it and I'm just happy, even if it doesn't look anything like, the book, I'm just happy that and honored that somebody wanted to, take it and adapt it and make it, something.
Is it television or film? TV?
For film, because Nena, there's too much for Nena to just be in a movie. She got to have some episodes to unpack all of these things.
And who would you like, if you could pick anyone to play Nena?
Oh my gosh! Oh my goodness! There are so many people. Everybody that I see that is like just this beautiful Black woman, I'm like, she should be Nena, and she should be Nena. And the latest person, I think, I don't know her name, but like I was watching The Sandman on Netflix. If either of you have seen that, and there's this character who plays Death, and no, not Death. She plays Death, I think. And so I was like, oh, she would be great. And she was also in, I think, Stephen King's that last movie that they had on there, Mr. Harrigan's Phone. Because I watch a lot of TV as well. So but yeah, there's not anyone in particular because I love everyone and I think everyone can, I want everybody in it. Everybody.
Great. Okay. Well, I'll be in it. And
you too, yes.
And when please.
We just had Christine, we just had another question that popped up. Sure. Actually, it's more of a statement from Miss Judy again. She would love to see Lashana Lynch play Nena.
Yeah, and I mentioned her in the book too. I say that Nena favors her. So yeah, Lashana Lynch, absolutely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hope she's watching.
Yeah, and she's listening. But if someone knows her, pass it along. Maybe. I think she's really cool.
Well, if you have an open invitation to come to Miami, to Books and Books, in person, whenever you want, and we can do like a reprise of this conversation in person, which would be wonderful. But thank you. We've got the book at all of our Books and Books. So if you're in Miami, come by and grab a copy. And thank you so much for joining us and for supporting us. And we'll see you the next time.
Yes. Thank you all for coming. Thank you too.
Thank you.
Oh.
Good evening, everyone. Bye.